Most artists never get good, but they're capable of it. I've always been one to improve rather quickly, and I'm here to tell you exactly why. Here are the 4 biggest mistakes I've learned from risk aversion and the pedestal problem. You, Guiyaz, and I have a lot more in common than you realize. As creatives, we have a little bit of an epidemic going on, and that problem is called risk aversion. You may think art is unfair, but I think you're full of excuses. An artist's journey is loaded with failure, rejection, and strife, depending on your upbringing. Some of us take this as a challenge, but most of us stop trying altogether, fearing what our potential failures might say about us. Unfortunately, a negative attitude towards our potential as artists feels like a safe and cuddly place to rest. Most people find themselves sinking deeper and deeper into their self-doubt because it protects them from facing what it takes to truly embody what they desire. Remember, the end goal of an excuse is to create distance between ourselves and the truth. Moreover, artists have a tendency to put other artists on pedestals, so much so that we equate a decade's work to godhood. Yes, the jokes are hilarious, but I promise you, art gods don't exist. Not to flex, but I've been accused of this many times throughout my life, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think God has IBS. I hate to burst your bubble, but these artists are no more special than you or I, and there's no secret to any of this. The second you let go of any notion of unfairness is the second you start genuinely benefiting from your hard work. This remarkable talent you speak of exists far outside your comfort zone. Attaining that means embracing the unknown with open arms. Your best asset in life is the ability to do hard things, because once you're capable of facing what the rest of us run from, nothing can stop you. And let's be honest, is your art really that bad? Imagine how unique you'd have to truly be the worst artist on the planet. Don't you think that would be a difficult title to earn? Maybe even harder than becoming the best. Success starts with some extremely powerful daydreaming. Self-hatred is dramatic and irrational, point blank. We are what we believe about ourselves, so I'm gonna need you to develop some blind confidence. Overestimate every cell in your body. And remember, you share 99.9% of your DNA with Wallop. The second thing that held me back was a lack of input. This comes in the form of a few different things. Firstly, it can show up as not using enough references.
Stop it. Get some help.
Anytime you're using your eyes, aka being alive and conscious, every sight to see is an opportunity to expand your visual library. Your visual library is the memory of everything you've seen, studied, and experienced throughout your life. Think of it as an archive of visual knowledge. Your visual library is responsible for one's ability to create new, believable images from nothing. How do you think people create unique characters and creature designs? They work off of what already exists, combine a few things together, and add a personal twist. Having a strong visual library allows for more flexibility and efficiency when drawing or painting. Aside from muscle memory and general dexterity, visual libraries make up a huge chunk of an artist's skill, which, of course, cannot be built from within. Using references is almost like a lesson, one that pops just one more page into your book of knowledge. Using references is literally mandatory if you want to improve at all. To this day, it baffles me that people skip this step and proceed to break pencils over not knowing how to draw something they've never studied before. That's like showing up to your friend's calculus exam and expecting to pass with flying colors. There's no guesswork when there's only one right answer, unless your answer is that you're f***ed. There's nothing about using reference that even comes remotely close to cheating, so I better hear some and some capiche? Moreover, a lack of input can come in the form of overwork. Yeah, you heard me. None of y'all should be relating to Burned Out by Will J. In the simplest terms, my best solution is to
Get along.
What do I mean? Well, to reference math again, the masterpiece equation looks something like this. Here I'm referencing life experience. Why do we draw in the first place? There is no wrong answer to such a question, but generally I'd say it's to make something internal external, to express ourselves in ways that words fail. The thing is, art comes after the artist, and the artist loses the ability to express when they place art before themselves. To dedicate one's life solely to art is to dedicate oneself to the expression of nothing. Life experiences are like gas in a car. You'll need to refill the tank every once in a while, unless you want to break down in the middle of the highway and be rendered catatonic for a good 12 months. In more broad terms, this can include touching grass and kissing boys, but I'm also referring to digital media. Make time to watch shows, play games, and admire other artists' work. Make it a part of daily life. Follow artists on social media, maybe scroll Pinterest instead of Instagram every once in a while, watch some ArtTube content while you eat, etc., etc. There is nothing unproductive about living your life. The third way this lack of input can manifest is by not knowing what you want in the first place. How do you expect yourself to achieve greatness if you don't know what greatness is? As I mentioned earlier, it's in your best interest to take in lots of art. I've been compiling all sorts of art for years now. That's why I have such a specific idea of where I want my style to be. Taking in lots of art helps you figure out exactly what you like and exactly what you don't like, therefore giving you a much clearer idea of where you're going. Conveniently leading into my next point, reason number 3. Your process is entirely aimless. Whenever you draw, it's like you're in a horror movie with an unsharpened pencil as your only defense. Folks, what are we without goals? The word people without goals is just pee-pee. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not. Listen, 5 years ago I started setting yearly art goals, and boy, has it made an impact. Not the Genshin or the Honkai kind, but the positive kind. I've been able to achieve most, if not all, of the goals I've set for myself. But how? Let me show you. One of the biggest goals I set last year was to create more clear lighting scenarios. If you take a look at my art back then, the values are there, but the lighting is incredibly boring. It's also lacking in those crisp, sharp edges I so vehemently appreciate nowadays. It kind of looks like clay, right? Well, this year, I wanted to figure out how to render like crystal clear Jello pie. You see, that clay look was because I rendered absolutely everything with the same brush. Soft Paint by Breadfly. The simplest difference between then and now is that I started using the G Pen more. Yeah, the default G Pen. The first instance was the skin highlights on the Sukuna painting. How the fuck do you say that name? Sukuna. Sukuna. Another thing I learned in this painting was half-blended edges. You know about hard and soft? Well, there's a secret middle ground between the two I had completely overlooked. I wanted to achieve that, excuse my language, texture. While studying various paintings of lips, I figured that I wanted a sharp edge for the highlight, but a blended edge for the lip coloring. This confliction created an effect that I ended up recreating over and over again to this day. A few paintings later, we have this abomination. I had picked up a stylistic quirk from a friend to use cool pinks and baby blues as bounce light for skin. This was also a lower contrast color study, so the overall vibe suited the color palette of cotton candy. This ended up working out pretty well, and the highlights on the legs built a bridge between whatever this is and my recent works. Still looking like clay though, until we reach this painting. Don't ask when I'll paint something normal. The big takeaway here is the sharp highlights in the hair. This is the first time I did that, and to say I fell in love was an understatement. I also continued with the sharp pink and white highlights, which made way for this painting. This one's from October 2023, but I'm still really happy with it. Here, I focused on rendering different textures. The stockings, leather boots, skin, hair, metal, they're all rendered completely differently. I'd say this marks the end of the clay era. With the multicolored sharp highlights from head to toe, I had finally escaped. Later on, I feel this painting fully encapsulates that hard candy look I was going for. Of course, You wanna make a cameo? You gotta pay for that spot, girly pop. Of course, I'm still making stylistic adjustments, but just look at the difference. This would never have happened if I didn't set a goal. Since I figured out exactly what I didn't like about my art, I was able to make small changes in every piece that I made. Eventually, if those small tweaks are headed in the same direction, they'll compound into the huge change you wanted from the beginning. No matter how little I knew about how to get there, somehow, here I am. Art improvement is simple. Identify point A and point B. Then focus on a specific pain point with each piece you make until the gap is closed. If you make experimentation part of your process, you won't have to worry about improvement anymore because it happens automatically. Keep it simple now, and your work will pay off in the future. That's just a law of the universe. Oops. Hope that didn't affect the audio. Comment beans. Another reason some artists fail to improve is stubbornness. There are some things we just can't let go of. For me, it used to be using way too many sharp edges. It felt like such a huge part of my style, and everyone praised me for it, so I kept on doing it even when I didn't want to anymore. Even after my taste changed entirely, that stubbornness held me back until I was forced to let go of it for a project. Suddenly, I had to make a lot of art in a short period of time. Eventually, Eventually, I learned to be more selective with what I spent my minutes on, and in turn, the inefficiency of my previous process disintegrated into dust. Here's another example. I used to think I was doomed to never draw lips again. I adored the way other people had stylized them, but my every attempt just looked ridiculous. So much so that I ended up embracing it, saying my style just wasn't realistic enough for it. Until one fateful day, I sat down, did some studies, and included those changes in this painting. Lo and behold, it looks perfectly fine. A lot of the time, the only thing holding us back from change is ourselves. Those mental blocks are stronger than steel. You just need the grace to walk around them. Identifying too firmly with one particular aspect of your art style can really hold you back. Just think. How many times have you heard someone complain about how inconsistent their art style is? The truth is, I believe you're far better off with inconsistency. All it means is that you're trying new things and growing as a creative person. Why in the world do we value stagnation over growth? I am of the belief that you can't put your artistic vision in a box. It's like the ocean, always moving and changing according to the contents it holds, whether it embraces a whale or a guppy. Your humanity, or the water, remains unchanging. I believe style lies in the person creating, not the creation itself. You can't take the artist out of the art. That's what makes it unique, right? Your style is what you choose to create and how it changes over time. How you learned to draw in the first place, what you practiced on, your personal tastes and experiences, those are inseparable parts of you. Rather than some predetermined corporate idea of how lines are thin, colors are bright, and everything is pleasant. It's one of the most unartistic things I've ever heard. Your true potential is unlocked when you set yourself free to just be yourself. As cheesy as it sounds, there is nothing more valuable than individuality.